Well, let's talk about the big focus story. Support swells for presidential candidate Droupadi Murmu, and this time support has come from rather unlikely quarters. Earlier today, Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee said that she has a weakness for the woman candidate, but then it's late now. With regards to the presidential candidate support, what we know so far is that all allies of the NDA, including JDU, are unitedly supporting the BJP's choice. Those are pictures from the day of the nomination where you see the top leadership of the BJP presenting her nomination papers. Later, of course, Yashwant Sinha filed his nomination as well with the support of the important leaders of the opposition. Leaders of two other political parties, the unallied parties of Biju Janata Dal and YSRCP, have signed the nomination papers of Droupadi Murmu. So they have further cemented her chance to win, making it a contest that is heavily tilted towards Murmu. Akali Dal, meanwhile, has announced today that they will vote in favour of Droupadi Murmu. Earlier, BSP chief Mayawati also extended her support, saying tribals form an integral part of the party's movement. In terms of support from opposition, remember, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha is still holding their cards close to the chest. It's going to be interesting to see where JMM stand, because they are in alliance with Congress in the state of Jharkhand. They are under pressure also to support the NDA's candidate, as Murmu, the governor of the state, might then draw the support of JMM as well. In fact, it's an interesting dilemma for a lot of parties. JMM unable to decide. Now, Mamata Banerjee says that she also would have supported Murmu if she was given that choice. Yashwant Sinha, as per its earlier commitment, of course, is the choice of the opposition, and as per party's ideology and identity, many are divided in their choice, and at least a couple of parties are yet to disclose their preferences. Tribal MLAs and MPs in the ranks of opposition are also under pressure. So viewers may recall that Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik has appealed to all MLAs, including that of the Congress, to vote for Murmu, who's the daughter of Odisha. Former PM and JD leader HD Devegowda praised Murmu, giving more fillip to her chance to win. So odds are heavily stacked in favour of Droupadi Murmu, no doubt about that. But what was least expected was that Mamata Banerjee would join this chorus. Yes, viewers, that's what seems to have happened now. Someone who would like to be considered as the opposition face has gravitated towards Murmu. Let's introduce our panel this evening to discuss the importance and implication of the statement coming from the opposition leader Mamata Banerjee. Smita Gupta, senior journalist with us on the program. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, political analyst. Tauseef Ur Rehman, also political analyst from Kolkata. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the program. Let's listen in to what Mamata Banerjee said first.
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে আমি এখনো মনে করি যে একটু সরে যান আগে থেকে যদি বিজেপিরা জানাতো যে একজন ট্রাইবাল আদিবাসী মহিলাকে তারা প্রার্থী করছেন, তাহলে আমরাও চেষ্টা করতাম। আমার এমনি মহিলাদের প্রতি একটা সেন্টিমেন্ট আছে, এবং যেহেতু রাজনীতিতে অবশ্য পুরুষ মহিলা সবাই আছে, ওরাও আমাকে কনসিডার করে না কখনো, সেটা নয়। একটা জেনারেল ইন্টারেস্টের সাথে আমরা নিশ্চয়ই অপোজিশন যে 16-17টা পার্টি আছে, আমরা বসে একটা সিদ্ধান্ত নিতে পারতাম যে একটা কনসিস্টেন্ট ক্যান্ডিডেট দেশের পক্ষে ভালো হতো। একসময় এপিডি কালামও হয়েছে, কিন্তু বিজেপি যখন আমাদের সাথে ফোন করেছিল তখন তো আমাদের সাজেশনটা জানতে চেয়েছিল, কিন্তু ওদের সাজেশনটা আমাদের জানায়নি। তাই আমি মনে করি যে গেটার ইন্টারেস্টে গেটার কনসিস্টেন্ট ক্যান্ডিডেট আমি সবসময় প্রেফার করি, কিন্তু যেহেতু আমরা 17-18টা পলিটিক্যাল পার্টি একসাথে বসে একটা সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়েছি, সেই সিদ্ধান্ত থেকে
Well, Tauseef Ur Rehman, what exactly is Mamata Banerjee trying to say here? Is she saying that we were never given a chance to pitch for a consensus candidate? Both the ruling parties and the opposition could have come together and supported Murmu. Right now, however, Droupadi Murmu is the NDA candidate, and Mamata Banerjee has publicly said that I would have liked to support her. Is this a big giveaway? And is the NDA not an absolutely untouchable idea for Mamata Banerjee? Because she also referred to how she supported APJ Abdul Kalam, who was the NDA candidate earlier. I want to ask you, does this have implications beyond the presidential polls?
Well, good evening, madam. I don't think so. This is kind of any whispering or it's going to be a gimmick altogether. Well, I totally believe in the Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal that it is not kind of any U-turn. It is just there, and whatever she's saying, she'll stand for it. Well, Mamata Banerjee is always, there with the women's support, especially someone is coming from an extraordinary background. BJP, the problem with the NDA, the BJP never discussed about the candidate. If there would have been any discussion, Mamata Banerjee would have been there with the lady more than the NDA. So, she's always there with the female, with the she background,
Mr. Rehman, the BJP did ask Mamata Banerjee to support Droupadi Murmu. The BJP asked for Mamata Banerjee's support in this, and now she says it's too late. But how is it too late? The elections have not happened yet. If Ms. Banerjee is serious about supporting a woman candidate, she can even now come out and say so, isn't it?
I totally agree with you that it's not too late, but it's all about commitments. Whatever she's saying, that this would have been discussed earlier, that they are going to nominate Droupadi ji, the scenario would have been really different. But the problem now that she has already given her commitments, but as again she's saying that it's not late, maybe it's late, but it totally depends what is she's going to do. But trust me, it is not something that someone is changing the color. The kind of media is very apprehensive. They are showing within 2 hours of this discussion, the media is showing a different kind of stature altogether. But it's not true. It's really not true.
Because you're supposed to say what you mean, and you should mean what you say. If you really mean that you are in spirit with Droupadi Murmu, then sure, walk the talk. That is what I'm saying. Kamru Zaman, please respond.
Basically, in Hindi we say, kahin pe nikah hai, kahin pe nishana. Well, I don't know what is the compulsion for Mamata Banerjee to utter a statement, and today I'm absolutely feel for Yashwant Sinha ji, such a senior politician of the country, and he has been left in the woods today. When Mamata Banerjee, you say, we always felt that she is a politician of the country who is very much unpredictable, I can cite an example of 2012 presidential elections, wherein Pranab Mukherjee, tall leader from Bengal, was supposed to be a presidential candidate of the United Progressive Alliance, that is the UPA. But then she opposed Pranab Mukherjee's, candidature. Even after meeting Sonia Gandhi, she came out and said, no, I'm going to oppose Pranab Mukherjee. I'm not going to, even she refused to attend the dinner. Even then, 2021, I read about a statement of Mamata Banerjee, wherein she was saying that every time I visit Delhi, do I need to visit Sonia Gandhi's house? So these are the predictability of Mamata Banerjee. Now you see, you aspire to be the Prime Minister of the country. You take a decision, whether it may be right or wrong, but you ought to be standing with that decision. When all the opposition parties were invited by you, even Sharad Pawar ji was also there, a senior politician, even Congress party was represented out there. All other parties unanimously agreed on your candidate. Not that Congress party has propped it or NCP has propped him.
Yes, exactly. It was Mamata Banerjee's initiative, which is why now she's stuck with it and says it's too late. Obviously, again, here's Smita Gupta, the BJP has outsmarted the opposition to the extent that every single party, it seems now, has a dilemma. The unallied parties have very swiftly moved towards the NDA's pick, and even those hardcore opposition parties are having a change of heart. What do you make of this? We know that there is no whip issue in this case, isn't it? If you can give us clarity, because I understand this is supposed to be a conscience vote. There is no compulsion as such.
You're right on that. Well, 2-3 things. One is that the BJP has, of course, thought this through very intelligently by fielding a woman and a woman tribal. It makes it difficult for political parties who are not with them to oppose her to the extent that, it kind of, it then becomes useful, it'll become sort of ammunition for the BJP to attack these parties as being anti-women, anti-tribal. As far as Ms. Banerjee herself is concerned, Let us not forget that the BJP is her principal opponent in West Bengal. Let us not forget that women are an important constituency for Mamata Banerjee. And Bengal also has a substantial tribal vote. So she is hoping through this statement to send a message to her followers that yes, look, it is the BJP's fault that I am supporting some other candidate. If the BJP had at the outset suggested Droupadi Murmu, I would have agreed because as she says, she has always been pro-women and pro-tribal. We have already seen the Akali Dal, the Biju Janata Dal, of course, because she's also, apart from being a woman and a tribal, she's from Orissa. The YRC will obviously vote for a candidate who is opposed to the Congress party. So it does weaken Yashwant Sinha's candidature. In any case, he was not going to win.
Yes.
Even without the support of the Akali Dal. But it weakens his chances, in the public arena, he looks like a much weaker candidate thanks to Mamata Banerjee's statement. When Mamata Banerjee is just being careful, she's addressing her own constituency back in Bengal because her principal rival in West Bengal politics remains the BJP. Though she defeated the BJP roundly in the last election, it is still the BJP which is her closest adversary.
And it also shows Mamata in poor light, isn't it? Like Mr. Chaudhary said, that it was your choice. You came up with this name and now you are dithering on your choice. That reflects poorly on you and your political decisions. I want to ask you, Mr. Tauseef Ur Rehman, that here was an opportunity for the opposition to present a united front ahead of the Lok Sabha elections. Here was an opportunity for all the parties to come together and do a show of strength. They've squandered this opportunity, and how?
Well, ma'am, I'll tell you once again, it's not a political stunt, or it's not been doing but the only problem is that she had no idea about the presidential candidate which BJP had to stand with. And and you don't have to forget that, like the ma'am said, that BJP is always the first opposition party in West Bengal.
Come on, please
and we are
accept
fighting
that you
against
were
BJP.
outsmarted.
But
Why
the thing
couldn't
is
you
that
have
now
thought
she
about
said very
Droupadi
clearly
Murmu?
that she had
Why
no
didn't
idea.
the opposition think of Droupadi Murmu?
No.
She's in the BJP.
Clearly. No. I know. I am saying if that is the case and so many parties have already shifted.
It is not about Mamata Banerjee will think about Droupadi Murmu.
Now why is she saying this? That I would
You
have
are talking.
supported
You
her
are
if
talking
she's
about
BJP.
United Front. That was not
She would
possible
have anyway
at all.
not pitched her name, isn't it?
Well, do you think it's a crime? Do you think it's a crime if she's saying in today's date that she would have been supported Droupadi Murmu? It's not unfair game. It's just her opinion and her views, but she's still standing with Yashwant Sinha.
You know what it does, if I'm not
but
mistaken,
it's not unfair
and
game
Smita
that she's
Gupta
not
can
doing
weigh
any
in on
unfair
this.
to Droupadi
It
Murmu.
shows-
Anyway, she's going to win.
It shows that your political ideology is not cast in stone. You are willing to move from this side of the divide to the other. Am I overstating this, Smita Gupta, or do you see that as a possibility?
It's not crossing the divide on political ideology. She is being politically expedient. She is addressing it's a simple thing. She is addressing her constituencies back home in Bengal.
Okay.
And of course, it weakens Yashwant Sinha's, position publicly. But she has probably figured out, in any case, Yashwant Sinha is losing this election with or without this statement, with or without her support. So she is just being careful about her own territory. Politicians will be politicians. Why do we expect such high standards?
But do you agree the opposition has squandered this
I'm
opportunity
sure,
to
ma'am,
put up a
everyone is
united
careful
front?
about their own territory because they don't want to go wrong.
Wait, let me finish with Smita Gupta. Do you agree that the opposition in a
I'm
way
sure everyone is
has
scared
exposed
their
the
own
chinks
concern,
in the
ma'am.
armor? They do not come on a consensus on any issue. And this does not augur well for their political prospects right ahead of Lok Sabha elections.
with or without this, I would have said that these opposition parties find it very difficult to get together. We've been watching them. After all, this is the second term of the BJP. It is not for the first time that politicians from all these opposition parties have been facing all kinds of problems at the hands of the BJP, whether it is the misuse of agencies and so on. And yet, it took a long time for them even to get together on this Yashwant Sinha issue.
Yes.
So perhaps Mamata Banerjee should have, could have, consulted her other colleagues on this opposition platform to come up with, to refigure the statement. They could have said that we welcome the idea of Droupadi Murmu as being the presidential candidate of the BJP, but we have already chosen our own person. I mean, in some other way, the whole thing could have been put so that the opposition didn't look as though she was breaking ranks.
Yes.
But that has been a problem with this opposition. So, but I think with or without this presidential election, unless they had been so clever and brought out and had actually zeroed in on a candidate which the BJP could not oppose.
Which they failed to do. Which they clearly failed to do. Kamruzzaman Chaudhary, do you agree that yet again this is abject failure on the part of the opposition to think strategy and have a candidate which the BJP couldn't have want to seen as opposing? They couldn't come up with a candidate like that. Do you concede to this?
No. This is not the question, ma'am. The main question is that when Congress declared its intention that it's not going to field any candidate in this election, despite being the largest party in the opposition today, Mamata Banerjee came out with the idea. She invited all the opposition parties to Delhi. We were all witness to that. She said that let us put up an opposition candidate for the presidential norms. She did not know who was the candidate. She propped up 3 names, all of whom refused to be the candidate of the united opposition. But ultimately, she suggested Yashwant Sinha's name. Okay, said and done. All the entire opposition stood by her. Okay, let's see. Mamata Banerjee is proposing a name. Let us all find out, stand and rally behind a united opposition just to make ourselves see as a unifying before the 2024 elections. But then what happened today by her statement, she is trying to find an excuse for the loss that is imminent. I believe, I am not sure whether the elections results would be which way or the other. But she is trying to find an excuse that, look, I said that Droupadi Murmu would have been a candidate, then I would have also supported her. But you should have been aware that NDA would have propped up a better candidate than yours. You should have been prepared for that. Because the presidential candidate, Congress doesn't want a direct one-on-one fight on a presidential
seat. And let's face it, the NDA had the advantage of knowing the opposition's candidate first, and therefore they fully used that opportunity to outsmart the opposition's candidate. And let's of course now see what happens. But yes, the odds are heavily stacked in favor of Droupadi Murmu now, with the latest round of support coming in even today, with the Akali Dal saying they will also support Droupadi Murmu. I'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us, Tauseef Ur Rehman, Kamruzzaman Chaudhary and Smita Gupta. Let's take a short break. News and updates continue on the other side.